Hi, I'm Hillary Wynn, Custom Content Manager with Meister Media Worldwide, the publisher of CropLife magazine. I'd like to welcome John Zook, Crop Protection Product Manager for WinField United. He is going to answer some questions about how and when to maximize micronutrients. But first, a little about John. In his current role, he draws on 14 years of experience as an agronomist to navigate the complexities of protecting crops from pests and diseases. His work centers on identifying sustainable, effective solutions that support farmers and promote their long-term success. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Hillary. Appreciate being here.
John, growers often are focused on macronutrients when building a nutrient management plan. But what micronutrients do plants commonly lack and why are they important?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of tissue samplings through Winfield United, and without alongside of my career, what we found is probably the three main micronutrients that crops are lacking are zinc, manganese, and boron. We can kind of sort them out by crop. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, but typically we see that corn is really responsive to zinc early, manganese probably mid to post vegetation, and then boron right at reproductive timing. A lot of times, what we'll see is those nutrients do different things in the plant. So a lot of times we'll try to target timings of when those nutrients are ideal for application, and specifically talking through what each nutrient does in the plant and how it responds, um, whether it's in corn and soybeans.
These small nutrients really do play a big role, don't they?
Yeah, no, I mean, we call them micronutrients, but they are actually the macro of the micro, right? We need very small amounts of them, but they do big jobs in the plant.
How can retailers help their growers build a nutrient plan that addresses these deficiencies and helps achieve greater return on investment and yield potential?
So I think the first thing that retailers can do is they can look at maybe some of their past history. So sometimes what we go is go through the farm, look at soil samples, maybe look at some yield results, and maybe see that there's some history there of some deficiencies. Another way we can identify some of those deficiencies is taking a tissue sample. Now, many of the time, taking a tissue sample is probably a post-mortem, or it's a little too late to identify that deficiency. So you have to kind of learn that the season before. Uh, what we've done with our tissue samples, though, is we've compiled them into a virtual format or electronic format where you actually can go online and make predictions based on tissue samples taken in your geography or past your tissue samples to see that if there is a deficiency trending in your area. So even if you're not taking a tissue sample, you can still use some of that data to help you make that decision. So I think once you identify the deficiency, it's about choosing the right nutrient on the right crop. Talked about zinc, boron, manganese probably being the most important micronutrients, but really specifying which timing they're going to be important. For example, zinc is really important early season on corn because it's the forklift. It's going to move nutrients and other parts, ingredients of that crop that crop needs throughout the plant, probably early in the season prior to V10, V8. Well, then once we get to late season vegetative, that's when we switch to manganese. Manganese is really important for photosynthesis, and that's when we see the deficiencies as well as the response to that micronutrient. And then finally, late season on corn. So as it gets into reproduction, we see a response to boron, primarily because boron is very important for reproductive health as well as sugar and photosynthate movement. That's different for soybeans. Okay. And soybeans primarily concentrate on manganese just because soybeans need as much help as they can get with photosynthesis. And that's where we see some of the deficiencies popping up. We also see deficiencies of sulfur, which isn't really technically a micronutrient, but actually a combination of a sulfur manganese gives a really good response. After that, we can identify the deficiency, maybe the right timing, which crop we're going to apply it on. It's about choosing the product. There's quite a few products out there. Maxin is the lineup that we use at Winfield United. One of the products that really addresses the key micronutrient needs, zinc, boron, and manganese, is a product that we use called Maxin Ultra ZMB Plus. Now, this has an ideal ratio of zinc, manganese, and boron. To cover the needs of the crop and what it has. It has a higher amount of boron, about 23 more times more boron than any other product that we've had. And in cross trials, we've seen some really good responses with both our answer pot research and in field, into yield responses. So I think that's really important to address the needs of those key micronutrients and making sure that we have a combination product to add into the tank. The last thing with ZMB Plus is it is specifically formulated for a foliar application. So it does have corn sorb technology to help the uptake of those nutrients and make sure that those nutrients are being brought into the plant most efficiently so the plant can use them to get the best return on investment for that grower.
All about finding the right puzzle piece and putting it in the right place, right?
Right. There's a lot of pieces that we got to plug in throughout the season.
Do low producing acres still need a nutrient plan?
That's a really good question. I think when we think about low producing acres, you think about, well, that I don't get my payback there. I don't get the benefit there. But what we do know is a lot of these micronutrients really help the macros become more efficient. So I always talk about, this little tweaks in micronutrients might help a lot of those macronutrients or those lower producing acres become a lot more efficient. And sometimes that takes a little bit of teasing out. That's where I'd say we got to have a plan in place for a nutrient plan. Maybe it's taking a tissue sample. It's probably having some kind of history on the farm. That could be soil samples or a yield history. But I think if you can get that right, you can still make those applications on low producing acres and see the response that you need to see to get the return on investment.
Yeah, it's good to know that there are strategies for those low producing acres as well, because I mean, every acre counts, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Who should retailers talk to if they have questions about micronutrients?
Well, so there's a lot of places that they can find questions about micronutrients. We have always encouraged them to go and work with their WinField United representative. They can find a lot of our information on our website too, but talking to a representative is going to get you the latest information on our products as well as our data to support the positioning of those products. So reach out to your WinField United representative.
John, thanks again for taking the time to talk with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Hillary, for having me, and again, appreciate being here.